Supercharged, fuel-injected, burning nitromethane, and a controlled substance and explosive within the meaning of the act. And most of it is designed to run for 10 seconds only.
A thrilling blend of performance, technology, and comfort.
The Baroness, as they call it, has a 185 horsepower V8 engine that guarantees power and economy, too.
Bless your car with love.
Allowing into students.
Bless your car with love.
Allowing into students.
I'm not interested in loving people. I'd rather be a self-centered, bitter, angry, discriminatory, sociopathic people hater.
Allowing into students.
Bless your car with love.
You know, we ride around in a car. That car is a shell that isolates us from the community.
Bless your car with love.
Hydraulic controls make it as easy to run as power shifting in a car.
Bless your car with love.
But the grim statistics show more than 10 children every day are killed or seriously injured on Britain's roads.
With a stylish personality that's designed to put the fun back in your driving experience.
You step on the gas instead of the brake.
Bless your car with love.
Allowing into students.
J'aime pas les beignets. J'aime pas les beignets.
I always take a taxi.
So that's gives you an idea of what our work is like, taking disparate bits of media and making a collage out of them, short form, 2-3 minutes, something like that, usually about a single topic. And we want to kick that off. So if you're not familiar with our work, that's what we do, things like that. We have 70 of those.
70 pieces.
70 pieces here. There are more, some we can't find. It's been a while. Like she said, we started in 1992. That was our first show. We were doing stuff before that. And then we stopped probably somewhere around 2006 or so. Yeah. So what's that? About 15 years we were producing.
Just as the technology was really coming in to make life a lot easier is when we decided to stop.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So for tonight's program, Kevin had submitted what is titled, "We Didn't Know What We Were Doing," which I felt was a bold statement. Can you share what inspired that title and what story or experiences lie behind it?
Yeah, I thought it was really fitting because it's a triple entendre. And at first, we really didn't know what we were doing. That piece you just saw was in 2001, so by then we're 10 years in. But our first show in 1992, Doug and I, we were sort of at a table like this with a big screen in front of us, and the video was on the screen, and we were playing audio behind it. And we were probably playing off of carts. Yep. We were playing carts that night? I don't know. And mixing in different sound bites from different things. And the video wasn't really tied in with what we were doing behind the screen. It was not related, although it gave you something to look at because when we're doing our thing, there's really nothing to look at. It's not like we're a band playing instruments. We're just playing electronic gear. And our first few performances were like that. And we were trying to put it together. We knew that we wanted eventually to have the video tightly coupled with the audio, but we weren't there yet, but we were doing it anyway. And once we got to that point, that's the second meaning of we didn't know what we were doing. The first one is like, just in general, we didn't know what we were doing. We're making this up almost out of whole cloth. Once we got going and we had the video and the audio tightly coupled, like that kind of thing, it got to the point where we were working on these pieces mostly separately on our own. And at one point we had 12 contributors. And we wouldn't see the material until the day of a show, and sometimes at the show. So we didn't know what we were doing, right? We're trusting each other enough that it's going to be fine, but we didn't know what was going to be on the screen until at the very earliest, the week of the show. And a lot of times it was the day before. We'd all get together. This is what we're doing. We put it together in order, and that would be the show. And then the third meeting is, I kind of can't believe that we're here in the Art Museum, Doug, but we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, at the time, we were just doing this because we sort of felt compelled to do it. We enjoyed it, and apparently so did the public to a certain extent. And then we look back on it now, and you look at our catalog of work. It's like, when it was decided that we're going to be doing the show, so we got to dig up all this stuff now, and where is it, and all these other tapes. And it's like there's just piles and piles and piles of material with actual pieces. There's tons of paraphernalia, like over here, buttons and images and all kinds of stuff. You just look at this body of work and you go, wow. We didn't know we were doing this. Like, it's that, okay, that's nice that it's recognized. We really enjoy that. And also, there's this aspect of, we sort of branched out later in the 2000s with, well, there's the money drop thing we did, and we were in the 4th of July parade one year as just a one-off stunt. We would do these stunts, and Paul Harvey Oswald turned into, from making short movies, satirical movies, into bigger performance activities. And it kind of mushroomed. You go, wow, we really didn't know what we were doing. We didn't realize what we were doing back then. And that's why I wanted to call this talk, We Didn't Know What We Were Doing. But we do now?
Well, you'll know by the end of the evening whether... Actually, Kevin's going to premiere a couple new pieces, which is kind of cool to think that it's continuing on. But when we first started, we didn't have a lot of pieces that we could share. And that first show that Kevin's talking about, we would do looping content just over and over of whatever. And so I had a Chia Pet monkey head that just spun. And after the show, my former boss came up and he said, my God, that's like how the whole world exists and the way that people are looking at things, and it makes all the, and I'm like, yep, exactly. That's perfect. But eventually we had enough pieces where when we came up with an idea, a theme for a show, we could draw on this catalog, but it took quite a while. So for a long time, we just had very limited number. But we started to pick out names for shows, would kind of identify what the content was, and then things that we might hand out. So we did a show called Spork, the Other Slice of Americana. So we gave out sporks and buttons, and we tried to push Paul Harvey Oswald as a person or as a thing, and that kind of helped. We could hide behind that iconic image and kind of be and do whatever we wanted to do.
So let's go back to the beginning. How did your journey into this field start? And since you both spent time at WIFR TV, did that shared experience play a role in shaping your path?
Yeah, working at the TV station certainly did. The job that I had was sort of behind the scenes. And I had a lot of, let's say, free time and a lot of access to unencrypted material. What I mean by that is we would get the news feeds from, it was the CBS affiliate, the news feeds from CBS, the raw stuff, not the stuff that you would see on the program, but the stuff that you would use to generate the program. And plus the news, plus satellite feeds, which were in the clear, okay? Which was a tremendous boon to getting material to do this kind of work that if you didn't work at a TV station at the time and you wanted to do this, you would probably want to get a job at the TV station to do this. But that's not how we set out to do it. We had some influences, Negative Land, for example, but we were just kind of noodling around. It's like, is this something we could do? Because we have access to all this material at the TV station. Doug a little bit less than I did, but we could still get it. Plus, a lot of the stuff was already on tape, So let's say like the Phil Donahue show was on tape, and there was a soundbite in there I wanted after work, or more likely during work. I would just lift that off there, put it on my tape that I had on VHS, and set that aside, and I would take that home and work it into something. So definitely the TV station was a big impact on getting us started, because it was like access to a lot of raw material. And then Doug went freelance in 92, yeah, and then I went freelance in 94, and then things kind of switched around a little bit, because we were working freelance, but not a lot of work, okay? As if memory serves, there were months where we maybe had 10 jobs between the two of us. You know, sometimes we're on the same job, sometimes we're on 2 separate jobs. So we're working 5 or 10 days a month. So we have loads of free time, okay? And no money. It was barely making a living, but gobs of free time, and this idea that we could do these things. And that's the other thing is a lot of people might not realize what it takes, the time that it takes to put together even. That's a relatively short piece. The one we just saw about cars, I think it's 2 minutes, something like that. Some of our pieces are run 5-6 minutes. I think the longest one is 7 minutes. But it takes a long time. It can take months, sometimes years, before you acquire all that material. That's where the TV station comes in handy. And having a lot of free time comes in handy. And at that time, we were getting set up as, well, as Engine Studio in the early history days. We had to get gear. We had low-end professional gear, but it was professional. And sort of made our chops on that low-end gear doing this kind of work, which helped us in our professional careers too. When you're cutting together these really tight sound bites, you really want to get it really tight, and that, you know, it works in your paying gigs too. What was the question again? Did you want to get in here?
Yeah. So at the TV station, it was pretty cool, because we would hear this material over and over and over again, and Kevin's technique was to save a soundbite and write it out on a note card, and that was his reference of how he would stack that stuff up together. And I would take the audio samples and create a CD of those samples and drive around and listen to it. And when you listen enough, your brain kind of finds a natural funneling of those subjects, and then you can go out and look for, I need a piece to get from this idea over to this idea, and then you're actively searching for that kind of stuff. So TV station was great. We just had a endless supply of content. But as Kevin said, getting the samples really tight and cutting our teeth, I actually got jobs as a freelancer in Chicago, getting a full day rate based on the PHO work that I did, and that kind of helped launch the professional side of the work. So I was always happy with that fact that came out. So yeah.
Back to the note card thing. Yeah, I wrote out all the sound bites on note cards, and it was the original sort of non-linear editing where I could take this one and put it after that, or does it go before that? Or wait, what was this one? Does that fit in there? And I knew them all in my head, like you're driving around. I've got them on note cards, and I'd put them all on the floor. I'd have like 50 of them. I go, that one could go there, that one could go there. This was all before non-linear editing on the computer. I mean, it was around, but it was really expensive. We didn't go digital until 1999, so that's well into our career. This is all analog at the time. So when you're cutting that stuff together, you don't want to mess around with moving things back and forth like you can on a computer, because to do that with analog gears, sometimes you're cutting tape, and you don't want to cut that tape unless you have to, you know. So that's how we got started on putting the pieces together.
PHO was right in the mix during the big shift from analog to digital video. How did that technological leap influence the way you worked or told stories?
You want to jump in on that one?
Yeah. What Kevin was saying earlier was we would cut tape to tape, and you really, we could get frame accurate. Kevin developed a technique where he could hear the tape machine roll back and then play forward, and he knew that the edit was going to kick in. So we were able to match that stuff up. But the computer that's underneath the plexiglass, that was our first. We started to cut content on the computer, and that was our analog to digital world. And so we could get those samples much tighter, but we kind of threw the video away. The video was not part of it at that point. And then kind of either through requests or the older that we got in doing the process, we realized we could edit that video back into those really well cut together audio clips. And so we couldn't edit the video there, but we were able to get really good pieces on that computer. And even Apple at the time couldn't do that. So I was pretty proud of the fact that we had an Amiga. We used this 8-bit sampler that would take an analog signal in and convert it to digital. This was about $150. It was a lot of money at the time after investing in the computer. But again, it really cut our teeth and led to more work and to kind of speeding up the process and refining it a bit.
If you're into the technology at all, this is, it's called destructive editing. So if you have, say, a soundbite that's 8 seconds long and you want the middle 4 seconds, if you cut away the first part, and you just cut it away, it's gone. And you cut away the second part, it's gone. So you want to have copies of what you do, a lot of copies. And by the way, that thing ran on floppies, okay? So we had stacks of floppies with, I don't know, 10 sound bites on each one, maybe, I'm not sure. Not a whole lot of stuff, but just like stacks and stacks of stuff. But now it's all non-destructive editing. If you cut away a piece of it, they go, just play that part, but keep the rest of it on the hard drive. So those days are over. So we had to be we had to be really careful with that. And the other thing you could do with this, getting off topic a little bit, is you could write out the waveform with a mouse, and then it would play the audio. I don't think we ever used that, but it's an interesting piece of gear. Yeah, and then the Amiga over there, that was the bridge between the analog and the digital world. That really got us going. And then, like I said, in 1999, we got Final Cut Pro 1.0. And then we were in a digital tape deck, and we were fully digital at that point. But like I said, that's 1999, and we were already at Waterfront. We're already, about as big as we're ever going to get. We didn't, everything before that was all tape to tape with a little help from our friend here. And then once the digital stuff came in, it made it easier for sure, but still, getting the raw materials, it's really time consuming. That's where a lot of your time is, yeah.
I can't imagine. Can you walk us through how a PHO movie comes to life? What's your creative process from idea to finished film?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's good that you mentioned the idea, because I actually wrote out an answer to that, and I was like, wait a minute, the idea comes first. Okay. First is the idea, and then it's the audio. Like we said, we would listen to the sound bites and get that the way we want it, okay, or maybe most of the way you want it. I'm even going to back up. That's not even, first it's the idea, and then it's collecting the material. So you might have an idea for, I want to do a piece on cars and how cars are destructive and how they're, they're great tools, but they're also polluting. So you start collecting sound bites about cars, and you might have 200 sound bites about cars, and you'll maybe boil that down to, I don't know how many were in there, probably 70 or 80, I don't know. We don't count them, but you get sort of a core, like this is going to work. And then you have a timeline that's just the audio. Some of the video matches, and you can leave those in, but the video always, the audio was always the driver. The video came later, and the video is almost kind of distracting, because sometimes you use your audio and go, oh, this is exactly what I imagined it was going to be. And then you put the video in and go, yeah, that's a little bit distracting, but you can't leave it blank. You got to have something in there.
And once we opened up that door, we had to go with it. We had to have the video in there.
Yeah, point of no return.
Yeah, we couldn't hide behind the screen anymore. And for me, sometimes, for the people that know me the best know that I like puns. And so sometimes I would come up with a title before I even had an idea for a piece. So there's one piece on here called DSM-3 OCD. And I had read about the DSM and was fascinated with all these classifications. And I happened to watch a video about obsessive compulsive behavior. And so I started to collect those pieces, and one of the highlight samples in there is this woman that thought she had a cat living in her nose. And I'm like, I can build the whole piece around that, pushing that one sample out. So it's funny how that creative process can kick in where you really have everything mapped out chronologically, or it's just kind of whimsical too. So
yeah. Oh, I want to do a piece on cars, but sometimes, yeah, a soundbite will come up and you go, oh, I'm going to use that. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I'm going to use that for sure. And then the idea blossoms from there. Yeah. And then really with the process, a lot of times back in those days, we would finish a piece and then something else would come up and you're like, oh, I got to shoehorn that in somehow and make it. So I have a piece called Chickens, which has, I don't know, 6 different varieties, depending on which era you're looking at. So that's, and then, yeah. So that's the process, the idea, the audio, the video is sort of an afterthought, and then you have the piece.
Beautiful. Switching to this, the PHO icon, the masks, the sense of mystery, it's all very striking. What's the story behind these masks? And what do they represent?
Well, that's a good question. I can say like thematically, Doug and I pretty bashful people, so we don't want to be the face of the stuff that we do. So like I said in our first show, we literally were behind the screen. And Doug found this image. You want to tell the story of finding? Yeah.
I found, I love mannequins, and I found a really good book about mannequins at the Rockford Public Library. And there was a great example of a designer, Italian designer, and he had created this head out of, it was terracotta. And then our buddy Scott Long recreated the bust over there off of that image that we had. So we made that leap from a flat image, which we used as these fans, and every time we did a show, we tried to have people hold these up, and it was kind of fun to look out into the sea of all these faces of this unperson. But actually, though, with that bust, we were able to do a vacuum form and create those masks, and that's what all the Paul Harveyites in the Money Drop video were wearing, these masks, going into the mall at Cherryvale and doing something that you certainly couldn't get away with these days. So whenever I see that, I'm pretty exciting to see everyone looking the same. But that was the idea, is to have kind of a front man for us. There's one flyer in that case that shows 3 different mannequins, Paul, Harvey, and Oswald. And we didn't know what the direction was when we first started out, but as soon as we zeroed in on that one iconic image, it kind of set the tone. And now some of the sculptural pieces from Scott Snyder, one of the other members, he uses that image quite a bit. He's using AI voice and putting prompts in. He started to animate it. So it's kind of taken that image and carried it even one step further, which is, I think, pretty cool. So
yeah, and then, it turned into our brand, which was kind of an interesting thing that we didn't plan on doing, but it worked out really well, I think. So we could just show this image and people know what the deal is. I got to tell you this story. I think it was for one of the on the waterfront shows. We faxed this image only to all the media outlets, all 3 or 4 TV stations. I probably went down to WNIJ, went to the newspaper, radio stations. We faxed it at midnight, 3 nights in a row, just the image, okay? And then on the 4th night, we sent the image with the press release, okay? And I heard, because we both worked in TV for a while, that there was a little bit of a buzz, like, what the hell is this thing coming over our fax machine every night at midnight? But it worked, because when it finally came, they're like, oh, that's what it is, Yeah, we were pretty, that was pretty good.
Was it always at midnight?
Yeah, it was at midnight, yeah.
Ominous.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What was your connection to the Art Zone, and how did that space and the Rockford arts community at the time influence your work and creative direction?
Yeah, Doug and I don't know if you know this, but Doug and I were the editors of the Art Zone with that played at the Cortland. Didn't play at the Cortland Gallery. Played on cable access, but they were the ones that sponsored it, and so that just shows how connected we are with the arts community. We played at Skuggi probably more than anywhere else in terms of number of shows. So they were really friendly to us, and Doc and Jerry were really friendly to us, and we got to know a lot of the arts community through the Art Zone because we're going into their house with cameras and we're interviewing them where they work, and we're talking to collectors and we're talking to actual artists. And I told Doc this at the opening. It's like, I think most of the friends I have in Rockford, I made through the Art Zone. The ones that I still have, I should say, I made through the Art Zone. It was a great opportunity for us to meet the artistic community. And what sort of turned out is they kind of liked us. So we had sort of a built-in audience right off the get-go. We'd always have, a few people, artists that were there. We could always count on them to come, to our shows. And we originally, like our very first show was at a bar, and we were thinking, well, we're sort of like a band, so I guess we'll play at bars. I mean, that's what you do, but we're not really. And then we got the attention of well, I guess John and Marilyn at Gallery 451, because we did a show there early on, and it sort of grew organically from there. We just started playing what I call the equally lucrative art gallery circuit. Yeah, we didn't get paid, I don't think, ever for this stuff. No, we did.
Drink a lot of beer.
Yeah, we got paid a couple of times for PHO stuff, but so it kind of grew from there. And then Skuggi was happening, and so we played there a bunch of times. And we had some great shows there because they were really open to, you guys can do really whatever you want, And there was a show there called 1 in 10. Remember the 1 in 10 show, where we had we did 10 brief shows, and we used what's it called, like
a darkroom
timer. So we would set that for 1 minute, and then at the end of that, it would buzz, and we'd shut the power off for our stuff, and then we do 2 minutes and 3, and we got up to 10 minutes, and we didn't know really when that buzzer was going to go off, we were going to lose power. So we're just kind of, and we're doing everything kind of live. Right, we're switching it live and playing everything live. We had a phone scanner then.
Back then, you could listen to live cell phone conversations. So we would pick up both sides, and we would put that into the mix along with music like that Craig, one of the members, made. And it was a little bit more of a live situation rather than just playing a tape, which is kind of what we did towards the end. But
yeah, Doug had the phone scanner. He's got like a separate headphone, and he's like on the mixer, someone bring up the phone scanner because this is getting pretty good.
But what Kevin was talking about, though, is we got to that 10-minute mark, and Scott Snyder's hitting this cast aluminum baby that was triggering a drum sample, and we're projecting medical slides on the walls, and we're listening to the phone scanner, and all this stuff is going on. Well, the power was limited in Skuggi, and we had one extension cord that was running our whole show. And right at that 10-minute, the timer didn't shut off. It blew the circuit. And when we touched the cord, it was hot to the touch. So it wouldn't have gone on much longer than that.
We almost took Skuggi out that night. I don't know if we ever told them that.
So back then, there wasn't an obvious platform for the kind of work you were creating. So where did you first share it, and how did you find your audience?
Yeah, like I said, we were at the Blue Note Bar first, and then shortly thereafter, we were in art galleries. And I forgot to mention this, we were cutting together the Art Zone, and we would throw some of our stuff on the Art Zone too, because we're the editors, so we can do that. It's a little self-serving, but also it's practical because of technical reasons, the show has to be roughly 30 minutes long. And if we have a 4-minute gap, it's like, well, we have this stuff right here. Boop. Now we have a 30-minute show. So that works out. Yeah, and then we played other shots of us doing shows. We've done shows here at the Art Museum. Those were World AIDS Day shows.
Yeah, so that piece in particular was called Isolation, and at the time it was just about the AIDS epidemic, and we created an event around this audio sample and played that audio sample on the reel-to-reel that's on the table over there and treated the tape player like it was the patient and cleaned up with bleach afterwards, and we're all wearing hazmat stuff. But it was a platform to play that one audio piece. And so the fact that we actually were able to come into the museum, you know, we did on the waterfront, which was cool. We projected in front of a lot of people, but in a focused environment where people were kind of thinking about a theme a little more heavy, it was cool to really to be in here in the art museum.
So yeah, we started out in art galleries and that sort of thing, which it seems kind of strange, but okay, it works. And then eventually we got more popular, and I don't remember exactly how we got to On the Waterfront, but we were invited to be at On the Waterfront. I think that was 1998 was the first year, and we set up with probably a borrowed projector, and there was like an AV company that had a tent nearby, and they were like, "Wait, what are you doing? Doing that projector? That projector sucks. We'll lend you guys a projector." So we're going to be here tomorrow. Like, we'll bring you a really nice projector. So they lent us a projector just out of nowhere. It was really nice, But then I don't know if it was that night or it was one of those nights. We were there 3 nights, I think it was 3 shows. We had a scaffold, and we had the screen was on the scaffold. And one of the nights it was really windy, and the scaffold just bellowed out like a
turned into a
giant sail. And we had, let's say, volunteers climb up the scaffold and hold the screen down. I think Scott Long was one of them. Yeah, it could have fallen over and people could have got hurt, but it didn't, but it worked out, yeah. So then on the waterfront, that's like, oh man, that's a big time, here in Rockford. But then we had some shows in Chicago. The mustard bottle is from a pretty elaborate show we did at a futon store. So, that's, those are available too. They decorate their storefront. It was for the Around the Coyote Arts Festival, and we had been there a couple times before, but that year they wanted just us in their storefront, and that was a super fun show in Chicago. And the thing is, like I said, we were pretty enmeshed in the arts community, but no one in Chicago knows us. But it worked out really well, and we had some people. We had probably 40 or 50 people. They were on the sidewalk, right? So we were projecting so you could see it from the sidewalk, and the audio was outside. And I was there on Friday. We did it Friday night and Saturday night. And I was there on Friday night, and then on Saturday I'm getting set up. We're going to go at 7, I think. Someone walks up at 5:15, and they said, "Are you the guys with the movies?" Yeah, that's us. "Are you going to do that again?" Yeah, for sure. "What time are you going to do that?" "Well, we're not really going to do it till 7, so you can come back then." Yeah, and we had all kinds of people there. We had tons and that's Chicago. Like, they don't know us. It was great. So, and then, okay, the last thing is we eventually made it nationwide on a small cable channel called Free Speech TV, and they did the same thing like Art Zone. They needed fillers because some of their documentaries were like, maybe they're 24 minutes long, so they need 6 minutes to get to the half of the hour. So I just sent them a bunch of stuff, and they sent a letter back saying, "Would you want to do an entire half an hour?" I said, "Hell yeah." So I put together 2 30-minute shows, and they ran them. I've got pictures. I don't think they're doing it anymore, but yeah, it was. So that's about as big as we're ever going to get, pretty sure.
So there's this thing called culture jamming, culture jamming, which was a big part of your approach. How would you describe it to someone today? And do you see any connection between that and the meme culture we see now?
You want to go?
Yeah. So probably the coolest example, we found out about all these other folks that were doing different things. The Barbie Liberation Organization, they would swap the voice box from a Barbie with a G.I. Joe, and then they would go into the store and put it back on the shelf. Or people would get to large billboards on the side of the highway and change and manipulate the words overnight and make it look like their own message, but you could hardly tell that it had been manipulated. So those were some of the things that influenced us at the time, and we didn't know exactly what was happening. Kevin's earlier, we didn't know what we were doing, but we were certainly running parallel with some of those themes and areas that we were exploring at the time. I'm not sure about any others.
Yeah, we've sort of fell under that umbrella of culture jamming, which is pretty, I like that. And other people doing wildly different things. And that's, to bring it sort of to today, that's kind of what memes are, although it's different, it's much more shorter in duration, but it's the same kind of idea. And I mean, I turn into this old man, get off my lawn kind of thing. I see these meme people. It's like, we were doing that 30 years ago. And we have 70 pieces, and they're all like 2.5 minutes long. What, you put two whole things together, and you call it something awesome? It's like, yeah, get off my lawn. You know, it's not that great. But it's the same kind of idea. You're trying to poke fun at the culture that sent you the thing in the first place. Yeah.
The fair use of doctrine. I believe you have a video to show us for this.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, so we'll. It's just a short video, but it was asked to be in a show because it does a really good job of explaining, taking information out of context and using it to either demonstrate a point or to share a thought or an idea. So it's not really hijacking, it's like legitimate.
Just real quick. The fair use doctrine is a legal doctrine where you can use copyrighted material legally for certain like educational, instructional, news, search now. You don't have to get permission from the copyright holder, and we fall under parody. Parody is one of the uses you can. You can't use too much, and you can't like alter their like revenue stream. Okay, I don't think we're altering anybody's revenue stream.
Hello there, I'm George Putnam. I'd like to begin with a fact, a simple yet shocking fact. It is this: a flood tide of filth is engulfing our country.
It's called the content scrambling system, or
Paul Harvey Oswald.
And it works by taking the picture and sound of without permission, chopping them up into tiny bits, then rearranging them in almost random order. Fair use.
Just remember the golden rules, and always measure ingredients accurately and add them in the correct order.
Fair use.
Use of technical means somehow extinguishes the consumer's power to do anything with the content that the maker of that content doesn't like.
Out of context is when you take something that really happened, but the way you take it out of context, it pollutes the meaning of the whole situation.
Fair use.
So if you have any questions about anything we've discussed, please closely read the
fair
use instructions in the front of your recipe book.
In most cases, it'd be a violation of copyright law to just lift that scene whole. Courts have also ruled that fair use allows reporters and teachers, anyone, to use copies without permission. Fair use.
Okay, ready. Penelope, I've got it. It's the only possible answer. They've been recording your voice, right?
Right.
They've been editing the tape, right?
Right.
Editing is a form of rearranging. They've been rearranging your words to make you say something that they wanted you to say, and then they've transmitted it.
So that's a perfect example of finding this sample that was beautiful. That was a show that I grew up with, Thunderbirds, and then I backed everything else up to go around and to support that structure. So
that piece has one of my favorite edits in there where she's talking about check your fair use instructions. Those are two different samples cut together, and the lips actually match. It's like, that was really good, Doug.
You had a saying, always roll. What did that mean to you, and how did it shape your approach to your work?
Always roll is, let's say it's a Sunday and I'm at home and I'm watching The Simpsons. I sampled a lot of Simpsons back then. And you'd never watch anything on television without recording it while you're watching it, because how many times you go, oh, I wish I had that. So always roll, because getting the material is really time consuming. And if you miss it, back then, that might be your only shot. They'll play that episode again, but you don't know when. Well, now you could probably get it off of YouTube or something like that. It's a little bit easier. There's technical situations there. But the problem with always roll is you have a lot of VHS tapes, like boxes and boxes and boxes of them. And the person who's paying for that right now is Holly Connell. And because getting material for this show, it's like, wow, yeah, we have a lot of stuff still. Yeah, but I think we're getting rid of some of it, Holly. We're getting there. We're getting there. And that's just VHS. There's also digital tapes, you know. So always roll. You might miss something, you know. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Not anymore. Now you can say, oh, I need an image of, you know, Donald Trump in front of the White House with Elon Musk. YouTube, you know, it's a lot easier. Yeah.
The word ridiculous pops up often in your work. What draws you to that idea, and what role does it play in your creative expression?
Well, it's always been at least my contention that what we're doing is pretty ridiculous. And the fact that people watch it, it's kind of, wow, that's also ridiculous. But I don't know what came first. There was a Negative Land soundbite. You know, it was time zones. You know how many time zones there are in the Soviet Union?
11.
That's ridiculous. we do this all the time. That's like someone will say 11, you go, that's ridiculous. You know. So there was that from Negative Land, but also at one point we called the show that we were doing the Ridiculati Tour, which is actually based on a real word. It's not ridiculous. It's radical, as in radical roots. Like it's a dental term, and we didn't know that. We just made the word up. But it turns out it's actually based on a real word. We spelled it different, but so ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It's a bit of our sort of a catchphrase. Like this is like an icon. That's ridiculous. It's sort of a catchphrase. We use it in a lot of our work, as you'll see if you stick around for the new stuff.
Beautiful. At this time, we're going to open it up for any questions for Doug or Kevin.
So, unless I'm missing something, this was not a money maker.
Oh.
Engine studio, Carolyn, right?
Right.
And you mentioned that maybe some of the things you learned that he's helped you with business in. But as I recall, Engine Studio had a great reputation. Did anybody, any of your customers say, I'm not going to deal with you because of this? Or is it the opposite? You saw the craziness and we're going to hire you to do our corporate business?
Yeah, the creative people that I worked with, producers that, like I say, one of them hired me to do extra work based on the PHO stuff. And they actually came to a show here, the show 31 Shopping Days to Armageddon, where there was little babies, that was Scott Snyder, little dolls pushing shopping carts full of money. The producer that I was working with at the time is in the suburbs, and he came and he would know the amount of work that went into it from the editing side and the tools that we were using, but he did not understand any of it whatsoever. So, yeah, exactly. So that was kind of funny, but yeah, we tried to have those worlds exist at the same time. I think we've only ever had someone really mad at us. One of our friends, her brother was at a show that we were doing, and he was outraged, and I'm sure it was due to the liberal nature of the pieces that we were playing at the time. But that's the only instance I can remember where
I got a little bit concerned one time because one of my clients was the Rockford School District, and they were a major client for me, and I had a piece called the Neblock Headlock. I don't know if you remember when Bill Neblock attacked another school board member, and I tore that up pretty good. And it was on the waterfront, thinking, man, someone could walk by. And I almost pulled it, and I thought, you know what? No one's paying attention to us, you know. That's a stretch. Although I was concerned about it, but I went with it anyway. Yeah.
You have, you said that everything is found, basically everything is found with fascinating ways of putting cards together and all that stuff. Do you ever have to stitch together stuff with your own voices? Like, who says Paul Harvey Oswald?
Yeah, I would say that and just recently, within this last 6 months, there's still probably 8 or 10 of us that are doing content, and one of the key people, I think, is Scott Snyder, former curator here at the museum. He's in Florida now, and these sculptural pieces are his, and he's using AI and has found a voice and is manipulating the image. But we always kept that like, we're not going to manufacture anything. We're not going to use our own voices. We're not going to, as painful as it is, and you're looking for a word like they, we're going to search for that word they and not create it. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, one of our earlier influences, if there was any other influence besides Negativland, I don't know who it'd be, but they do that. They're mostly audio. They have some video to it, but when they have a gap, they just use their own voice. And I don't know if it's because on principle or we're just too shy or what, but we're like, we don't want to do that. We want it to be all gathered.
Cheating, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's easier. Yeah.
Then
we deliberately did that from the beginning. We're we're trying to not be Negativland, but we didn't want to do that, and that was from the very beginning. And I don't know that we ever like manufactured something. Yeah.
We have time for one more question, and then we have a couple world premieres. I see a hand going up right here.
Can you just explain this money drop thing?
Yeah, Kevin, that's you.
Okay, yeah, well, that guys goes back to the culture jamming we talked about. That was sponsored by Adbusters magazine. And if there was a journal of culture jamming, it would be Adbusters magazine. This one's been in the 90s, yeah? So they asked anyone who's interested, if you will go to a bank or a stock exchange or some sort of commercial place and throw money at the people there, it was supposed to be for like bankers or stock exchanges, things like that, which we have banks here, but we did this. So we said, yeah, we'll do that, and if you do that, what they said they would send us the flag. Is that how we got the flag? I don't remember, but so we okay, yeah, let's do it. And Craig was there too. There were, I don't know how many of us were there. There was, I think, 4 people with the banner dropping the thing over, and then we had 3 or 4 still cameras and 3 or 4 video cameras all the way around the top. And we decided we'll do it, knowing we're not going to last very long, so get it on tape. And we went and did it, and it worked out really well. There was a person there with a stroller. She stopped the stroller, ran over to pick up the money. And it wasn't a whole lot of money. We scraped together probably everything we could, and it was about $130. And if you notice, at first,
don't throw it out too fast.
Yeah, at first they were throwing out handfuls. We're like, whoa, back up. We don't have that many dollars. They were all $1 bills, And we knew we were going to get kicked out in New York Minute, but that's fine. But I believe the exact quote was, "You have to leave." I think they said that to Craig, and then Craig left, and he dropped his mask, and he went back and picked up his mask,
made him wait.
Which is you have the security.
Made the security guys wait for him.
He had to wait for you, yeah. And then Adbusters asked us if you did it, submit it to the magazine, and of course we did, and we were the only ones that they printed a picture and a little blurb about us. We were the only ones they mentioned, and it was a worldwide event, so we're pretty proud about that. So yeah, the money drop.
So before we, Kevin's got a couple new pieces to show, but before that, I just wanted to thank the Art Museum and the staff and everyone who's been fantastic at making this happen, Carrie, and then also acknowledge that there's PHO members amongst you tonight. Craig was responsible for music and some of the early audio samples. Sue Stevens is here, and she right now on the YouTube channel, in the 70 pieces that we have online, her piece, McPusherman, is number 1 on the list right now with a couple hundred plays roughly, so we're pretty proud of that. But there, like I say, at any given point there was 12 or 13. There's math professors and Scott, Snyder, there's just a bunch of different people that contributed, and really we just said, you just got to come up with a piece and roll with it. No other. Yep, show. Yep, during the Futon show interviewed a number of people and said, why are you here? What are you getting out of this? And it's fun to go back 25 years later, roughly, and see what was happening at the time and to hear some of these comments. So thank you for that support. And now? Yeah? We had hoped to have a number of new, fresh pieces because we've been living these same 70 for a long time. So today was the first day that I actually saw these 2 pieces that Kevin's come up with, and
like I said, we don't know.
So it's pretty exciting to know that that's happening, and we will add them to the 2 screens that we have, and so like I say, we have roughly 70 pieces. I'll just play a tiny bit of this headlock just so you hear the first part of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Hello, I'm Bill Neblock, the president of the Rockford Public School Board of Education and the elected representative to serve District G.
Let's get ready now.
I believe I must set an example for our youth and our community.
I don't think so. What happened between Neblock and David Stromer in November?
Neblock made the right move. Put his hands around the throat of board member David Stromer during an argument.
Yes, the easiest thing for me to do.
Choking fellow board member David Stromer, Bill Neblock,
Beat them to the punch.
proving that he is the man. Earlier, Bill Neblock told me he gave him a black eye. Why did he do it? An argument over candy and nuts.
Now the
I love that sample. It's great. It's fantastic.
Argument over candy and nuts.
So what I'm saying though is explore the screens when you can. There's plenty of fun pieces in there that you'll either be disgusted or you'll really enjoy.
So we always said everyone in the planet is in the band because we'll make fun of anybody except for my dad. He emailed me and said he wanted out. And in one of these pieces, we were making fun of ourselves. So it finally came around.
All you have to do to understand anything is pay attention. All you have to do to understand anything is pay attention.
What does it take?
You know, Barney, I think this whole civilization is heading for extinction.
What does it take?
And you want to know why?
America, with all its strength and prosperity, with its fighting men that is second to none.
What does it take?
Pay attention.
What?
With its standard of living that is the highest in the world.
Pay attention.
What does it take to destroy?
Good evening.
What does it take to destroy almost all life on Earth?
This is your captain. We are about to attempt a
course, we wouldn't be silly enough to do that.
This is your captain. We are going down. We're all going down. Together.
How much longer do you really think you will last?
One, two.
Let's do the numbers.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2,
2,
3.
2,
1, 2,
2,
3. 1,
2,
Three things.
War, famine, and pestilence.
Speed-ups, quotas, and surveillance.
Pilgrims, guns, and chainsaws.
Three things.
SNAP, food stamps, to Medicaid.
Work, work, work. Visible, public, and measurable.
White, Western, and wealthy.
Avalanches, earthquakes, hurricanes.
Churches, schools, and stores.
Schools, hospitals, and airports.
Escalators, elevators, suitcases with wheels.
Wonder, privilege, humility.
Shock, disbelief, and sadness.
Unfit, undesirable, unwanted.
Poor self-confidence, high stress levels, low satisfaction with life.
Harmful, degrading, and oppressive. Hatred, resentment, and suspicion.
A panic, a crash, a blow-up.
Primitive, but simple and clear.
Restless, noisy, and troublesome.
Technically difficult, self-indulgent, absurd.
It was as though a planet-wide high school science fair had run full tilt into a circus sideshow.
It doesn't even need to make sense. Just noises are fine. Board, 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 board.
Unpleasant work, bad conditions, obvious uselessness.
Yeah, it's still a thing.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but it sounds cool.
It persists like a turd that won't flush.
Round and round again.
At best, it's a fudge. But really, it's just gassy bullshit.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I want to hear more.
Bigga, bigga.
We all knew that this was bullshit.
It's a fallacy in 3 dimensions.
I wish I knew what that meant.
Oh, seriously? This can't possibly get any more ridiculous. I wouldn't say that.
The problem was how to make sense of it all.
One might also refer to them as bullshit generators.
Essentially, the producers of trash.
I like his funny talk. Well, he can funny talk somewhere else.
He seemed eternally indestructible.
How could any reasonable person in possession of his senses produce such nonsense?
Idiots are all around us.
What you called
Paul Harvey Oswald
was nothing more than nonsense on stilts.
We may never know its true nature, or if it even exists.
It does not look like the result of a plan.
It's beyond ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's got to stop.
We could stop.
That doesn't make sense.
20 years later,
hair 2/3 gray.
The skins wrinkle a little.
Having some alertness issues.
This is too ridiculous.
What's going on?
I have no idea.
They express a nostalgic fondness for the pageantry of the past.
Are they all blockheads?
Everything in the past was better.
Ridiculous!
And everything today is getting worse.
They will last for years.
This is going to be a long day.
Perhaps in some, it hasn't reached that zenith of bullshit.
I have no idea what's going on, but it can't be good. We need to get out of here.
We do it because it's interesting.
Everything else is noise.
And if you don't agree, you can fuck off.
That's it. So if you come to our shows or something like this, you have to keep in mind you might end up in a piece. Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
thank you to the Art Museum. Yeah.
But so I would ask one more thing. Holly, do you mind taking a picture? Oh, I also want to say, real quick. When we were putting the show together, we had the masks, the 3D masks, and then the simple ones, and we didn't really have a way to give them any sort of structure. And I want to thank Holly for coming up with the idea of the unpersoned full body form, because I think it sets off the image really great. So thank you for that. But if everybody could hold up their faces, then we can add to the. Oh yes, those are for you. Yeah.
Okay, look up here. 1, 2, 3. Yay! Yay, go. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.